You are sitting in your car in the parking garage, gripping the steering wheel until your knuckles turn white. You have the resignation letter drafted in your pocket. You have the speech rehearsed in your head. You are going to walk in there, slam the letter on your boss's desk, and tell them exactly where they can stick their toxic micromanagement, their gaslighting, and their unreasonable deadlines. You are fantasizing about the relief. You are fantasizing about the freedom. Stop. Put the letter back in your pocket, turn off the car, take a breath. Because if you walk in there and quit today, you're setting fire to $50,000. You are doing exactly what they want you to do. You think you are making a power move, but in the world of corporate warfare, resignation is surrender. When you resign, you waive your right to unemployment benefits in most states. You waive your right to severance, and most importantly, you destroy your leverage for a wrongful termination settlement. You are saving them the trouble of firing you, and you are saving them the cost of paying you to leave. Today, we are going to talk about the strategic art of making them fire you. We are not talking about being gross or incompetent. We are talking about constructive discharge, the legal traps of the performance improvement plan, and how to navigate the psychological warfare of a company that wants you gone, but is too cheap to pay the bill. We are going to turn you from a victim into a liability they have to pay to get rid of. First, you have to understand the game board. Why does the company make your life miserable instead of just firing you? Firing someone is expensive. It involves paperwork, potential severance, unemployment insurance hikes, and legal risk. If you quit, you solve all their problems. You disappear. You cost $0. So they execute a strategy to push you out. They want you to break. They want you to rage quit. But you need to know the signs so you don't react emotionally. The first deadly sign is a noticeable shift in attitude. It can be subtle. Your boss, who used to be friendly, is suddenly cold. Communication shifts from verbal to written. They stop stopping by your desk and start sending you emails for things that used to be a quick chat. This isn't them having a bad day. This is the beginning of the paper trail. They are moving your relationship from colleague to defendant. Another massive red flag is when you are excluded from meetings. You used to be on the invite list for the weekly strategy call. Now you aren't. When you ask why, they say, "We just wanted to keep the group small." That is a lie. They are cutting off your information supply. They are reassigning your interesting work to someone else and leaving you with the grunt work that has no visibility. When you see these signs, your instinct is to fight back emotionally. You want to ask, "Why don't you like me?" You want to work harder to prove your worth. This is the workhorse trap. You cannot work your way out of a target on your back. The next phase of their attack is the Performance Improvement Plan, or PIP. Let's be crystal clear about what this is. A PIP is almost never about improving performance. It is a pre-written justification for termination. The goals in the PIP will be subjective, like improve executive presence or collaborate better, or they will be mathematically impossible to achieve. If you sign a PIP and try to hit the goals, you are playing a rigged game. They will move the goalposts. So how do you fight this? You have to stop acting like an employee and start acting like a lawyer building a case, adopting a jury-first perspective. Imagine 12 strangers, a jury, are watching your every move. If you storm out, cry, or scream, you look unstable. If you quit, you look like you gave up. But if you remain calm, professional, and document everything, you look like the victim of a hostile work environment. Here is the precise protocol when they hand you a write-up or a PIP. Number 1. Remain calm. Do not cry. Do not yell. Do not give them the emotional reaction they are feeding on. Number 2, buy time. Do not sign it immediately. They will pressure you. They will say, "We just need you to acknowledge receipt." You say, "I need to take this home and process the feedback so I can give you a productive response." If they force you to sign, you write, "I acknowledge receipt of this document, but I disagree with its contents," and then you sign. Number 3, You must write a rebuttal. This is where you earn your money. If you do not challenge the write-up in writing, their version of the facts becomes the only version in your personnel file. When you write your response, focus on facts, not feelings. Do not write, "My boss is being mean to me." Write, "The email stamped Monday at 5:59 p.m. proves the deliverable was sent on Tuesday." If the write-up accuses you of being late, but other employees are late all the time and aren't disciplined, you document that. That is evidence of disparate treatment. If you're a woman or over 40 or a minority and you are being disciplined for something the young white guys do every day, you are now building a discrimination case. You have to understand that HR is not your friend. HR's origin story is union busting. Their function today is protecting the company from liability. And often, protecting the company means protecting it from you. The open door policy is a trap. It is a surveillance tool. When you go to HR to complain about your toxic boss, you are identifying yourself as a squeaky wheel. HR will listen, they will nod, and then they will likely go straight to your boss and help them draft the paperwork to fire you legally. I know this sounds cynical, but HR representatives will often destroy notes that help you. They will interview only the witnesses who support the company, and they will produce a report that says no wrongdoing found. So do not go to HR to vent. Only go to HR to file a written complaint about illegal activity, harassment, discrimination, or safety violations, and do it in writing. Now, let's talk about the biggest mistake people make that destroys their constructive discharge claim. Constructive discharge is when you are forced to quit because the environment is so intolerable that a reasonable person could not stay. If you can prove this, you can sue for damages as if you were fired. But there is a deadly trap, the flight risk text message. You're having a bad day. You text your work bestie, let's call her Sarah, and you say, "I can't stand this place. I'm applying for a job at Google tonight." 3 months later, the toxic boss pushes you too far and you quit. You hire a lawyer. You sue for constructive discharge. In the discovery phase of the lawsuit, the company's lawyers demand your text messages. They find that text to Sarah. They put it up on a screen and they say, "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the plaintiff claims they were forced to quit by abuse. But here is a text from 3 months ago where they said they were job hunting. They weren't forced out. They were planning to leave anyway." Your case is dead. You have to understand that your coworkers are not your friends. They are contextual acquaintances. Let me tell you about Joe. Joe was a guy who went out for beers with a recruiter, acted like a buddy, asked a simple question about the new boss, and then immediately ran to leadership to twist the recruiter's words into insubordination to get ahead. When money and status are on the line, people will throw you under the bus to save themselves. You need to practice strategic superficiality. You need to be friendly, but you cannot be friends. Do not text them about your job search. Do not text them trash talk about your boss. Do not text them asking to clock you in early. That's fraud. And the after-acquisition evidence rule means the company can use that to deny you back pay even if they fired you illegally. So how do you make them fire you in a way that pays? You perform contractual compliance. You do exactly what your job description says. You arrive on time, you leave on time, you hit your deadlines, but you stop doing the extra work. You stop fixing their mistakes. You stop staying late. When they micromanage you, you kill them with compliance. You send them daily updates. Per your request, here is the status of every task. You paper trail them to death. If they put you on a PIP with impossible goals, you document the impossibility. The goal requires X resources, which I have not been given. Please advise on how to proceed. You make yourself a high-risk termination. If they fire you without a paper trail or with a paper trail that you have systematically dismantled with written rebuttals, they are terrified of a lawsuit. This is where the settlement comes in. Often, instead of fighting a wrongful termination suit, a company will offer a severance package in exchange for you signing a release of claims. That is your $50,000 difference. If you quit, you get 0. If you are fired for cause because you yelled at your boss, you get 0. If you are fired after building a fortress of documentation proving disparate treatment and retaliation, you get a check. But there is one final trap you have to check before you start this war. You must check for an arbitration agreement. Check your employment contract. Did you sign away your right to sue in court? If you signed an arbitration agreement, you cannot take them to a public jury. You have to go to a private judge paid for by the company. These arbitrators rule in favor of the employer the vast majority of the time. If you signed this, your leverage is lower. But if you didn't, you are dangerous. The lazy coworker gets promoted because they understand leverage. They don't do the work, they manage relationships. You need to stop doing the work of 2 people and start managing your exit. When you feel that urge to resign, remember, resignation is emotional. Documentation is strategic. Let them fire you. Let them look you in the eye and do it. And when they do, you will walk out with your head high, your file thick with evidence, and your eligibility for unemployment intact. You are not a victim of their toxicity. You are the architect of their liability. Do not find the resignation letter. Sign the back of the settlement check.